Hello, and welcome you all joining us today in this panel, Lessons Learned in MUN, that is organized by World MUN Day. I'm your host, Lajin Al-Tayyib, and today with me are three significant and magnificent MUNers. First of all, I would like to introduce Derek Tong. Derek is born and raised in Hong Kong. He has obtained his bachelor's degree from Peking University in International Politics, and he's currently working at Hong Kong Public Policy think tank. Derek's MUN career started in 2016 and was forced, unfortunately, into an early retirement due to COVID-19. And during his 3.5 years of MUN, he joined over 20 Chinese and international conferences in the capacity of secretariat, chair, and delegate. He was also an intern at the United Nations Resident Coordinator's Office in Beijing and participated as an official Chinese delegate to the ASEAN +3 Youth Environmental Forum, and served as the academic director for the China ASEAN Youth Forum in 2019. Welcome, Derek. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, thank you very much for the kind introduction.
Thank you. Next off, we have Prily Soetiman from Indonesia, and she is a final year undergraduate student in Russian Studies at University of Indonesia. Her college life experiences are dominated by MUN, which kicked off as her being part of the University of Indonesia's official delegation for European MUN in 2019, which won her the Best Academic Excellence Award. And thereon, she participated in numerous conferences as chair, delegate, and even mandated as the Secretary General of High School MUN in 2021. Apart from MUN, she has a keen interest in self-development and youth empowerment, which has led her to build Maliosan.id, which is a nonprofit organization that focuses on connecting and empowering youth to reach their full potential. And she has also interned in campaign management at one of the most notable technology companies. Thank you for joining us today, Prily. We're lucky to have you.
Hi, Logan. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me as well. Hi, everyone.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Joseph Pengelly del Cerro. He's a dual national of UK and Spain. He has a profound interest in foreign policy and international affairs, with ambitions to pursue a career in diplomacy and development. Joseph first found his love for MUN at the University of Greenwich, where he was a class of 2020 economics graduate and final year president of Greenwich MUN Society. He then moved on to King's College London, where he has just completed his master's in international relations. Congratulations, Joseph. And he also attended a range of conferences stretching from Panama City to Madrid. And after that, participating in Lehman as both a delegate and a chair. And he undertook the role of Chief of Staff and Undersecretary General for Academics for this year's Lehman 23rd University Conference edition. And outside of MUN, Joseph enjoys working on his international political discussion platform called The British Diplomat. Welcome, Joseph, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you so much for the invite, and hi everyone. Hope to have a great panel discussion today.
Thank you. Just if you don't mind, we'll start with you, kicking off our questions. First of all, you said that you first found your love for MUN at the University of Greenwich. So the first question is that how were you introduced to MUN, or like how did you stumble upon this universe?
I've got a bit of an interesting story about it. So unlike a lot of other people, I didn't have access to MUN, or I didn't participate in MUN in high school, secondary school here in the United Kingdom. I knew of it during my sixth form years, especially year 12 and year 13. But then I remember quite starkly seeing it in an episode of the US sitcom Parks and Recreation, and that's where I realized, oh, this is an actual thing. This is actually a global initiative. It's quite interesting. And then it was something that I immediately wanted to engage with when I got to start studying my bachelor's degree in economics at Greenwich. And so when I got to Greenwich, I immediately tried to find if there was a society, and there was, and it was quite small at the time, but full of some really amazing people from around the world. And that's really how it got started. Since September 2017, I've been a big MUN enthusiast, and I don't see it stopping for a while at least.
Well, that's the spirit that every MUNer has, never stopping. And as for you, tell me about it. And how about you, Prily? How did you come into the world of MUN?
Actually, in Indonesia, I was kind of late since my first discovery of MUN was during my freshman year during the campus orientation day when I found out, oh, there's this club named Universitas Indonesia Model United Nation where they have so many international delegation where they were heading to Hover World, European MUN, Singapore MUN, and other things. And as a freshman, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool where you can represent your country, but at the same time, you can also visit the country, like taking holidays, visit some places while also practicing some skills that will be useful that will be useful for your future endeavors. And I was like, oh, I should join this delegation. However, I feel like during my freshman year, I was kind of insecure. Like I didn't have any prior experience related to English, like debate, newscasting, speech, or etc. But I feel like during that time, I should try that so that at least I can at least join one international delegation where I can taste the realm of an MUN, basically like that.
Oh, that's really nice and wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And Derek?
Yes, well, it surprises me very much that all three of us actually started in university, because a lot of people that I know, had a head start in secondary school, and to my knowledge, some of them are even starting in their primary schools. At least in China, primary school is starting to MUN. That's the thing. Anyway, I also started the MUN in my first year of university, and I just joined because my major is international politics. So, and I actually didn't know what it is when I got into university. So I just joined anything that is internationally related. And MUN, Model United Nations, was a thing that it stuck with me for 4 years, well, actually 3.5 years due to COVID of my university lives. And so, yeah, and that's here we are.
And so here we are, really. Thank you. As for me, I think I really just accidentally discovered MUN. I had no prior idea of what it is, but I am glad that I'm really into this society. I'm sure all of you are. And Prily, you mentioned that when you were first discovering it, you had some difficulties here and there. So during your MUN career, did you discover that you were doing anything wrong initially in the beginning? And how did you discover that it was wrong? And were you able to fix it?
Okay, actually, yes, at first I felt a lot of difficulties, but throughout my MUN career, especially during my freshman year, I had a lot of friends, I had a lot of mentors in which they gave me intensive training for my preparation to European MUN. And in our university, when you want to go abroad to represent your university, especially your country, there's a phase called probation, in which you have to follow national competition, and then at least you have to win the formal awards, like at least the honorable or best position paper, so that it can assume that you are ready for the international battlefield, something like that. So actually, during my training or during my first MUNs, I joined my first MUN was Indonesia MUN, and I just went to European that time. Actually, I didn't make any mistake pertaining to rules of procedure and other things, but my difficulty was kind of first, insecurity, where I have to speak English frequently, which this is not my mother language. That's the first one. And the secondly, it's since I don't have any prior experience to debating, to other English competition, I feel I have to adapt to learn about how I should build my arguments, how I should represent my country, not only saying my opinions and other MUN skills like research, negotiation, which I have to practice it simultaneously, right? Yeah, something like that.
Yes, thank you. That was really, I think, summary for a lot of people who will be watching us. I think most of them actually had the same experience or might have had the same experience. Derek, do you have a different opinion or
Yeah, I second the point that was just made on the mentors. I think it's very, very important to have a good mentor, especially for the encouragement. I was very, very lucky enough at my first ever MUN conference. I got, I think, two good mentors at the time. So just allow me to explain a bit. So I had this senior, she participated as a journalist in the main press center, which is in the same committee as mine. So we are from the same school. So she was also the academic director, of our association. So I got quite a lot of feedback on how could I improve, just like a coach who is just going through the same process with you together in your first MUN conference. And we also had another academic director who went to the same conference. It's a different committee, but we also did review, because the MUN was like 3 days, so we did review on Friday night and Saturday night. So I got a lot of encouragement and good advice for them, and I think it really helped me a lot, especially in confidence, because after all, I think it's not that like challenging or difficult. It's just that sometimes we need just a boost of confidence, to a leap of faith. That's what people like to say, though I don't really like to use the word anyway. So but it's really important. So afterwards, when I'm more experienced, I became chair and academic director and eventually secretary general. I tried to empower anyone that I could in any ways, including academic trainings or talks and whatsoever. So I think it's really something that you can pass on the torch in multi nations, and that's how we say in Chinese. So and I really like it, and yeah.
Thank you. I think anyone who's really passionate enough would really like focus on creating more MUNers, and that's what you did. So speaking about leap of faith, Joseph, were you able to find your leap of faith in the beginning?
Yes, it definitely it took a while to get there, but it was certainly a big leap of faith. I'll walk you through my first year. So yeah, I started at Greenwich Modern United Nations Society. A small group of people, very lovely. But the only conference that we managed to actually organize to attend that year was actually the Harvard World MUN in 2018, so the one in Panama City. And for that conference to be my first ever MUN conference was both absolutely exhilarating and wonderful, and such an awesome experience in the foreign country. But extremely scary, extremely going into, I was representing Ecuador in DISEC, and walking into a massive committee room with like 250 people in it. Oh my God, that was scary, and that sort of prompted my leap of faith. I'd done public speaking before to a smaller level in secondary school, but by no means had I done any formal level of debating or speaking in front of that many people like that you're hoping to work with. So it was certainly a leap of faith the first time I went up to the lectern to give my I think speech on the general speakers list. And I think I only spoke 3 or 4 more times that the whole week, but it was that felt like a extremely huge leap of faith. And after that conference, I felt like I could go on to do all the others, because I certainly set the bar in my head quite high. But I really do completely second the idea of being given that sort of level of encouragement in the preparations for conference is extremely important. It's really good to hear actually that both Prily and Derek have had societies where they had a lot of institutional backing. In the United Kingdom, it's not much of a norm to see like universities or departments of universities give like their institutional backing and mentors and academic like advice to societies and United Nations associations. We're all sort of quite left to ourselves, which means it puts a lot of pressure on the committees, the committee, the president, and training officers or academic officers of the societies to really prepare their delegates. And thankfully, I had such a lovely team prepare me for that first jump. But it was certainly a jump. Not one I regret at all, though. It changed my life for sure.
I'm not sure if I heard anyone regretting joining MUN. But like, if you happen to find any, please let me know about them. That was really actually interesting to see like the differences, and like I think about also sometimes having the mentorship kind of like lets an MUNer find their own path and how they want to shape themselves as an MUNer. So it's also like a positive aspect, if I may say. And like moving on to our next question is that which part of MUN, like throughout different roles, being a secretary, chair, or delegate, was like the most difficult part for any one of you? Derek, would you like to answer that?
Anyone who has been a Secretary General before would not answer otherwise. I believe so. Because there are just too many things, to deal with. When you're just a chair, it's more, the process is more enjoyable, because you just deal with the delegates and the academic stuff, and you get to sort of control. We call it moderate, but it's still controlling the arena, and it's really fun. But Secretary General is not fun. It's more like it's challenging, but then you get to learn a lot of things from it. You need to in China, you also have to communicate with teachers, and also if sponsors, if they are commercial sponsors, and also anyone who is not within your team. Of course, you have to manage the team. So it's something. Sometimes I think they really should make the Secretary General in a full-time position. Being a student, being a good student, and then being a good Secretary General at the same time. I think the only thing you have to do is that you need to lose some sleep, or else you really couldn't do it. But I think anyone also who has been a Secretary General will also say that it's very fulfilling, especially for me, because I like teamwork very much. I always say that no matter how brilliant you are, you can do nothing much on yourself by yourself. But then as a Secretary General, you lead a team, and then there's a lot more that you can achieve. So yeah, that's for me. We'll leave it time for others to share. Others, I'll be talking too much.
No, it's fine. We also like to hear about the experience, because I personally have never been in Secretary General, so I don't know how like demanding. Like I have an idea because I've been exposed to too many Secretary Generals, but like being it, that's still a place that I have to experiment on myself. And Prily, I know you've also like mentored other delegates. So how would you compare mentorship in like the other different roles of being an MUNer? Which one do you find more difficult?
Agree with Derek. I think if you ever been like a Secretary General, or at least Under Secretary General of I don't know what division, I think we would say that that would be the most challenging but the most rewarding at the same time. I believe that each role has their own difficulties. Like when you're a delegate, maybe you have to research, maybe you have to face a lot of delegates with different opinions. Then you have to settle with like win-win solutions, and eventually, if you are you have an ambition to win a award, then you have to fight for that. And when you are a chair, when you have like two good delegates, then you have to decide which one you should give the best delegate. But for Secretary General, I agree with what Derek has stated before. It is like you handle a lot of things. You should understand about the substantive matters. You should also understand, you should also taking care of the event and other sponsors team, so your event can run smoothly and other thing as well. But I believe that when you have been elected as the Secretary General, I think it's not merely about your development. Like when you are a delegate, maybe you will learn about 4 skills of MUN, right? But when you are a Secretary General, I believe that there are a lot of things that you can learn. Maybe it will be project management, teamwork, collaboration, and other things, which I believe that they are very rewarding. And to me personally, when I was mandated as the Secretary General of High School MUN, basically High School MUN is a MUN that our club specifically designed for high schoolers in Indonesia. So like, yeah, we can call it as one of the biggest and prestigious MUN for high schoolers. I believe that there was a satisfaction when I can finish the conference, attain a lot of delegates, and get a lot of positive feedbacks from the participants. So yeah, I believe that being Secretary General is one of the hardest positions that I've ever done. And like what Derek has stated, yeah, Secretary General equals to full-time position. And if Secretary General, if we be Secretary General and then we get paid, maybe Derek, Joseph, and me will be like the most rich Secretary General since we did our best job, right? Yeah, something like that.
That's a really great idea. Joseph, are we gonna see like a unanimous vote? Are we gonna like sign any petitions demanding a Secretary General to be a full-time role?
I definitely second the whole sort of wage side of that. I'd some financial compensation would be extremely appreciated. But yeah, well, I haven't had the privilege to be a Secretary General. Well, I'm working on the London International MUN Secretariat. It was a full-time position for me, and after graduating my master's in September, I was working, but I was also working at the USG for academics and chief of staff alignments. Like it was like a good balance to have, but especially the last 2 months, it completely took over my life, and like as mentioned before, extremely rewarding. And like the amount you can learn just through engaging with other people and sort of working with them, and working with external benefactors and third parties. It's such a underrated experience that I think a lot of I'll go back to the institutional side. I think a lot of universities in the UK need to recognise that MUN has can build a bridge between the academic world and sort of the professional world in that sense. So it's really important to me to learn those skills. And extremely rewarding. Managing, being chief of staff for 70 chairs was difficult to try and get them to all get their work done on time, but like getting to know these people, getting to like work out how they work, how they interact with others, and reading all that academic work and improving it. That was something that I learned so much from in terms of people management in a professional sense. Because quite often with MUN, you quite literally work with your friends, or your work you know them as friends before you work with them, especially on secretariats quite often. But then joining a secretariat where you know them, but they're your friends, but then having to come together and work to produce something quite big is a different dimension. And for me, that definitely translated into a lot of growth personally. But yeah, I think I definitely. I can't think of anything different to what Prily or Derek said, and I hope we one day I hope it all pays off one day.
I think some people watching this might even like have some entrepreneurship ideas after listening to this, because like me sitting here, I was like thinking, okay, where I was targeting, like, who should I target to build an MUN society here in Sudan and like profit out of this. But let's stay into the idea of Joseph. You were mentioning looking into MUN as a bridge that connects between the academic life and professional life. So that actually transitions us to our next question, which is like, what set of skills and gains that you have compiled through MUNing that you have carried over to your personal or professional life?
Yeah, extremely relevant question, and I think a lot of people will know this, and I'm sure hopefully all our attendees in the audience can relate to this to a certain extent. But starting off as a delegate, like being able to communicate firstly to a group of other people, like you in a completely foreign environment. Quite often you won't know anyone else in your committee. You might not know the chairs at all, apart from some pre-conference emails. Like it's going from that environment to with the pre-conference environment to the in-conference environment is quite a transition, and being able to communicate effectively is something really, really important. And I learned that a lot through my delegate experiences. it's and on a sort of more profound note, in terms of like context of actual the committee you're in, I learned a lot about the real world in terms of not to overthink how effective or not I think the best way to put it, don't idolize like the committees you work in. For like a lot of the United Nations General Assembly committees in real life, or agencies, some of them are absolutely fantastic. They do absolutely spectacular work worldwide and connect a lot of people. But a lot of positions, a lot of working groups, a lot of committees, largely very inefficient, and in my view, quite like they need a lot of critical analysis to justify their continuation to some degree. And I think before coming into MUN, I was quite idolized the United Nations as a platform for change, and it is by and large extremely an effective platform for change. But I think it's wrong to go into a committee thinking that it's the only way. I think it's quite important to include a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, and sort of policy trails you can explore outside of the committee. And that was something I learned probably my third or fourth conference, that it's not always about trying to create a working group in the committee to solve an international crisis. You need to open the floor to a lot of external people who aren't obviously present at MUN conferences, but sort of academically, more profoundly, that's something I really learned through my delegate experience. On sort of the chair and secretariat level, it strikes me completely like the professionalism you have to act with, and because you're not just representing yourself, or you're not people depend on you. A lot of people depend on you. Like as a chair, your delegates depend on you, but the secretariat also depend on you to be able to keep the conference moving, keep like a fruitful and academic environment for your delegates. And then as secretariat, you got everyone depending on you. So it's always a lot of stress. But on that sort of professional sense, being able to tackle that over a few months and build yourself up to that really helped me mentally prepare myself for other things in sort of those positions. But yeah, I think it's hopefully something that Prily and Derek can relate to. I'm sure they can as others, as Secretary Generals. But yeah, I think that would be the main skills that I'd take away personally. Yeah.
Thank you. That was like pretty extensive to some extent. And like, thank you all for your opinion as well. And really, I noticed that when Joseph was talking about secretariat role, you were like giving him a thumbs up. So is that where you personally have like carried a lot of skills, or which aspect of MUN helped you carry more skills into your personal and professional life?
I think I would say that couldn't agree more for what Joseph has stated when it comes to effective communication, where you will meet new people, you will say your ideas and opinions, and we have to negotiate, which should extend to come up with a resolution for all countries and other things as well. I believe that there's the first one, like the first and foremost thing that I've learned from MUN. I believe when you are part of MUN, especially as a delegate, if you have participated in several MUNs, like you will learn those four core skills, like research, drafting, negotiation, and as well as the speech or public speaking part. But I think MUN is beyond that. MUN taught me a lot of things beyond that, particularly like trial and error, like rise from your failures. I mean, like not all MUNers came with good experiences, and not all the MUNers are very good MUNers, which they have to learn from their failure, which they have to try first, and then maybe they will lose, and afterwards they will win. And yeah, MUN is like roller coaster. Sometimes it is in on the top, but sometimes it will become one of your lowest moment when you cannot manage any awards. But I believe that yeah, it taught me that MUN is about process. So it's not merely about your achievements. It's not merely about like what kind of title that you get after following this one competition. But it taught me that as long as you have the willingness to learn, as long as you have the good intention in following MUN, I believe all the good things will eventually come up to you. I think those two things are the most important things that I have learned throughout my MUNs, because I believe that when you are being part of when you're being part of MUN, and when you have joined as delegate, as chair, and even as organizer, I think there are some things that you learn basically from delegate. Maybe you learn about the core skills of MUN, where you will become the chair. Maybe you will learn how to be objective, how to choose the best words, how to make a very good study guide, in which, yeah, it correlates with the core skills MUN. And maybe for the Secretary General or Under Secretary General, but Joseph, I've been part of Jakarta MUN, in which I was also act as the USD of academics. So I'm kind of relate to you. But yeah, you need to also understand the substance and other things, while also making sure that your people, your followers are doing their best, and your committee is running effectively and smoothly. I believe like a lot of things that you can learn. But yeah, eagerness to learn, trust the process, not only about the result, are the two things that I learned throughout my MUN, which it in my career life right now, since I'm part of like one of the technology companies, I believe like, yeah, maybe I'm an intern, in which when I joined this company at first, I didn't know anything, right? But yeah, it is about the process. When you learn, when you have the eagerness, when you ask the people, and throughout the process, I also meet the chances where I have to negotiate, I have to present my ideas, I have to manage multiple projects and at the same time. So yeah, I believe like MUN, to wrap it up, I believe like MUN is a very good platform for you to enhance your overall personal development, and will be useful for your, I believe like not only your personal, not only your professional career, but like your daily life. Yeah.
Amazing. I couldn't agree more. We really need to trust the process as MUNers, because it is like kind of tiring, but like very rewarding. And Derek, unfortunately, because you had to retire early on from MUN, so how is like that transition, like transitioning from MUN to the professional life, and like how did that impact you personally?
But the impact was I was quite sad because COVID started like for at start of 2020, and I actually applied for Harvard MUN. So when I wasn't able to go, and I actually also I applied in 2018 as well, but then I had some family issues, so I couldn't go. And then 2019 also had some other issues where I couldn't apply. 2020 finally got it, but then I got COVID. So and interestingly at that time, it wasn't very serious in the US or Europe, or maybe they haven't found it out yet, but it started in China first. So they actually banned all everyone from China. So it's banned. So it's a very sad and unfortunate thing that we weren't able to attend. But anyway, because I now work in a think tank, so we're basically doing research, social economic issues in Hong Kong, China, and also sometimes the world. So it actually helps me quite a lot. I remember I think it's the first month I joined my company, and then one of my senior colleagues told me, oh, maybe you can do a research outline of what we're going to do. And then I just did it for him, and he said, wow, it's pretty good, because that's what I learned from so 3 to 4 years of experience. I just put everything out there, and I think it's very good. I agree very much with, because just to answer the question, we're having for this round, I agree very much with Prily that this is an overall level up, for every one of us. Everyone who's joined MUN for a few years would agree that the before and after, it's like you just improved a lot. And of course, I also agree with the communication. I just want to add on a point of what's important between MUN in professional life is that I've learned really to give attention to details, because every small detail would make a difference. When you are, for example, in the academics department, sometimes people would think that the font size, or those things, the non-content-wise things are not important, but it's not true. Sometimes when people just compare two different background guys and they see inconsistency, they will know that someone was not being very serious on something. So it's the same when you come to work. People, it's not a great thing, but people look at mistakes so easily. And trying to pay attention to the details and be really serious as what you do is really important to what makes up of professionalism. And I think this word is very important. When someone has their change from a student and when you go into work, because it's not a playground anymore. Their responsibilities and their stakes, and professionalism is exactly the thing that helps you get through it. It is something that you have to learn, and you keep in your mind, and you have to somehow encourage yourself and have faith in yourself. And I think because I'm the last person in this question, so I get to conclude. I hopefully can conclude. That's very unusual and rare in MUN that you are going to the concluding position. So I will treasure this chance. I think the answer towards the skill is that brings from MUN to our career is the word professionalism. And yeah, thanks.
I think professionalism could be an asset in that regard. Like the way you described it was like really on point. And thank you, actually. Is it just me, or like I'm getting emotional because all of this MUN talk, sharing it with like really passionate MUNers? But really, thank you all for sharing your opinions and like different takes on MUN so far. And to moving on to our next question. Joseph, you mentioned that the past 2 months, like working in the secretary, were like taking control of your life. So in that particular regard, like MUN like has this impact where like it dominates all our presence among our circles and everything. So in that particular regard, like how did MUN impact your life? Like at some point, did you lose yourself to it? If so to say.
Yes, so it's an extremely valid question, and really important for people who are interested in becoming chairs or secretariat members for certain, because it does take over your life to a certain extent. So I'm not too sure if of all of us who's familiar with the London International Monument in Europe. So it's not affiliated with the university, which is quite uncommon for a lot of MODUN conferences. It's part of the London Modern United Nations Foundation, which every year we try and organise the largest collegiate level European conference. So the process begins quite early. We get, for example, for my position, selected back in after interviews back in about June or July and August last year, onboarded in August. Then of course, like preparation starts for the next several months, with the aim of getting the conference in on time in late February. But of course, like it does progressively take over your life. You go from having few Zoom meetings, having weekly like secretariat meetings from my side, and then maybe even a few more meetings, like sub meetings throughout the week. And then after, I remember particularly for me, after finishing chairing interviews and allocating chairs who were successful to their committees, training or like just onboarding each chair, doing more chairing briefings, academics briefings, research briefings, all these things to get their academic documents on point. That certainly took up a lot of time as we approached the holiday season of last year. So November and December quite busy for me. In addition to sort of you find yourself trying to balance a lot of the work you do for secretariat, and then obviously the work you do for the chairs as well. It becomes a bit of balance that I managed to luckily find quite early on, but it took a few weeks. But then after sort of the study guides were all completed, which took quite a while, and a lot of perseverance from not myself. I had to ask for help from a few other secretarial members, but very grateful for their help. After having those done and finishing all like the academic policy documents for the conference as a whole, regarding rules of procedure, written document guides, all that sort of stuff, it became, I sort of had a breather for a week and enjoy it, and then prepare for the conference and sort of prepare on a personal level with the chairs. But I'm like the last 2 months, January, February until the end of February, it was my full-time job. I took less shifts at work every week, like progressively less and less work outside of Mod UN. It just dictated my week, and it's as I say, stressful but extremely rewarding. Some of the most satisfying weeks of my Mod UN career for certain. But like, it impacts in such beautiful ways from my point of view. I noticed this on day 0 of the conference, when I was holding the first like in-person chair briefings, getting all these chairs in from across the world, from largely in Europe, but also from some North America and some in Asia as well. Finally seeing all these people that I've come to know so deeply over the past few months in person, talking to them all in a massive lecture theatre, it was quite personally like rewarding, and I'm sure we all know how the online conference goes now, but to actually realize that and bring Lyman back from being online to being in person again was extremely satisfying, and it led me directly to this call. For example, Tadek was one of the chairs I was overseeing, and our paths crossed, and now I'm on this call with you guys, and we're all across the world, and our paths are crossing. It's very sort of a sentimental remark to make, but it's the impact it has is quite stark, and you don't realize it until you look back on it, unfortunately, and remember the good old days. But no, we're living it now, and our paths have crossed. So that's all I can summarize really about the impact. But it's I'm sure we all have experience with that regard.
Yes, and I just wanted to also, before I forget, congratulate Lyman for going back in person, because like that is like major, actually, like 2 or almost 3 years of like pausing because of COVID. That is like a major major aspect in itself. So congratulations to all the team who made that possible. And networking really goes on a different level when it's in person. So I could really feel and sense the what is it called? Like the amount of like gratitude, or like the impact that this in-person conference has left on you. When you were like saying your point. And Prily, so yes, you have mentored, you have been a secretary. So where do you find MUN really dominating in your life and taking possession of all your time?
You mentioned during my introduction, I've made my introduction like her college experiences are dominated by Model United Nation experience, which explicitly says that, yeah, my time, during my penultimate, my second year and my third year, MUN was really part of my life. Like there was a phase where it was on 2020 until 2021. I was the Undersecretary General of Internal Affairs in MUN Club. I was the USG of Academics in Jakarta International MUN. I was the Secretary General. So I ran this position, 3 positions simultaneously. And you can imagine how it impacted me, like where I have to balance my academics, my internship, and my MUN. Since like MUN is kind of, let's just call it kind of like voluntary work, although it is very rewarding for you, for your growth. But yeah, you have to allocate your time since you're really passionate about it. So I didn't mind when I have to give a lot of attention to MUN, and I felt satisfied when I can finish something, when I did something great and other thing, because I'm doing it because it is my passion, something about it. So I also agree with like Joseph, since like MUN has a very huge impact on you because of those responsibilities where you have to like, let's, people call it work-life balance, but we call it MUN life balance, right? Yeah, something like that, where you have to do, where you have to balance your MUN and your other things. But other than that, and because of these things like ran simultaneously, yeah, it taught me like how you should multitasking while also maintaining good qualities in all these things. Like Joseph, he can finish his studies, like he can finish his studies while also acting like someone from the secretariat, something like that, where you have to good in like managing this project simultaneously, where you have to deal with a lot of things, but at the same time you should also prove that you are a good quality of USG secretary general or other things as well. Despite maybe you will feel burned out sometimes, or you will feel like I need to finish that, but one thing that I have one thing that I learned, one thing that is kind of like my personal value, if I have taken this responsibility from the beginning, then I should finish it. So I cannot missing in action like in the middle of this decision, or like just do for the sake, okay, I just want to finish it. But yeah, you have to provide with good quality. So when you said that, when you said that, does MUN impact your life? I would say 100% yes. And I believe Derek will say same, like MUN impacts his life.
So Derek, would you care to answer that? Because if I'm not mistaken, you were doing PECMN 2019 and then like preparing for MUN at the same time, or?
Yeah. Well, I will not use the word impact. I would say that MUN defined my university life, and seriously, it really defined. But of course, there's a personal story. There's a personal story, and I can share a bit. There's this phrase that I always use. I major in MUN, I minor in internships, and I study when I feel like it. So that's how my university life goes. Everything is revolved around MUN. The personal story is that I think, because in an Asian society, or East Asian society, I am not sure, how to put it geographically, but competition in kids, it's important. Sometimes the parents expect you to have achievements, and that's just how the culture is. And growing up, I didn't really have. It was difficult for me to find something that I was like excellent in, or there are some objective achievements that people could see. But then Modern United Nations has writing, has public speaking, communication, organization skills, leadership, and all the things mixed into one. And then I just, you could use the word miraculously. I just miraculously, it seemed to like to be a thing that was fit for me, and I enjoyed it so much so it actually defined my university life, and also led me to a lot of different platforms, the so-called real diplomacy platforms, including internships and also youth forums. And so I just do not need more elaboration other than it defines my university life, as anyone who knows that what has happened in the past few years for me during university. Anyone who knows me knows that I am literally the equivalent of the word Modern United Nations in our in our small circle. Yeah.
Really feels like it really defined you, and like I think it also like the way you put it, it was like really it's impressing how like we keep on like going more and more in depth. We're like just like unraveling how MUN like really found its way into our heart and into each and every corner of it. So as a final note, I would like to ask each one of you to like share a pro tip about any aspiring aspect of MUN that you would like to share with people listening to us today. Who would like to start? Because like it, I feel like Prily is excited about it, so let's go with you, Prily.
Okay, so let me start with me, and then Joseph and Derek will complement my tips, since I believe they have a lot of really pro tips because they are pro MUNers. Okay, I think since I was a very newbie for MUN. I didn't have prior experiences related to like debate and other things. My first tip will be, as long as you want to learn, as long as you have the eagerness to learn and seek for a mentorship, I believe that MUN can be learned. MUN and all the things can be learned through trainings and other things as well. So yeah, just don't feel like, oh, I don't have any experience, then I don't want to follow MUN or participate in MUN. And also regarding that thing as well, I think you cannot compare yourself with other people who have a head start from you. Let's say I cannot compare myself to Joseph or Derek, since we have different paths, despite we are in the same page of MUNers, right? So that's the first one, that you, as long as you have the eagerness, then you can be a good MUNer, and just don't compare with other MUNers, because it will be kind of like never stop cycle. And the second one, I believe no matter what role that you are assigned to, like whether you are only as a delegate, as a chair, or as a secretariat, I feel like each one of you should do that with your heart as well as with your brain. So you not only participate in the competition just because you want to win, but at the same time, you should also feel that, oh, from this competition, from this conference, I'm learning something. As well as when you are leading a secretariat per se, just please don't ever think that, oh, I'm doing this for myself so that people will glorify me. But please also understand that there are some people that you need to lead, that some people that you need to taking care of, because I believe like MUN will shape you in a form will be useful for your future endeavors. So overall, I would say that I recommend for every one of you who haven't tried or still in a process of like seeking for good MUN path, MUN is a very good platform. Like it will enhance your overall skill.
Amazing. And I feel like if people really took those tips, and they could even be applied into their current situations, professional or personal. And Joseph, moving on to you.
Yeah, I'll try not to repeat anything, because my recommendations are very close to Prily's, and excellent recommendations for any aspiring MUNer or anyone in the audience who has done MUN and wishes to continue. I'd say my personal recommendations is, because MUN is quite a vast. We've already discussed the vast skill set it can provide to someone. If you sort of know what you want to do after your academic career as a student is finished, you can really try and use MUN to focus on a really specific part of professional life. So if you want to, for example, go into sales or a business, perhaps negotiation is something you value extremely, and you can use MUN to really hone in on those skills. If you're more into, for me personally, it was more always about foreign policy and diplomacy. So I really loved MUN for the research I could do, and the way I could apply my the academic skills I'd learned through university to actual something extracurricular, and like apply them outside the classroom on some sort of imaginary playground. But it was still worth it completely, and it's something that I don't think anyone can sort of, I don't think anyone can miss this opportunity, because I feel like there is a skill for everyone within MUN that can apply, that they can apply to their career outside. So that would be my first tip. I definitely recommend. This is more of like a procedural one, but always ask questions. If you don't know something when you're trying to learn something for a conference, or even in the conference, ask the chairs questions, ask for other delegates questions, ask your mentors or your society questions, really important, because it's it can be a bit scary, and I've definitely suffered that myself. But if you want to learn something quick, if you want to make progress within it, it's really important to keep asking questions and not be afraid of that, because it's something that obviously is important to professional life after. And then I'd say the final thing, which I learned the hard way for sure, was don't go into any MUN with one set final outcome. Don't prepare, don't research too. This is something that for me personally, my research, I went too hard on the conference research. I think it was I was France and the European Council. So I thought, okay, right, I'm France, European Council, I command a lot of diplomatic influence and power within this council. So I came in with like a full policy package ready to tackle this continental issues, and it was my most enjoyable conference for certain. But I perhaps got too engaged with my own let's say my own thoughts of how the diplomacy was going to roll out throughout the conference, and I didn't get as much as I wanted to achieve. So I'd fully recommend. After that, I made sure to always have several different thoughts of sort of what outcomes could happen. But yeah, be flexible, be extremely flexible, and always have a smile on your face. Be compassionate. That is my final one. Compassion and a smile on your face. People will respect you. People will always be welcome to talk to you, and that's core to diplomacy in my head.
Thank you. Thank you for these tips. I think personally, I really relate to the asking questions, because like asking questions could have saved me so much trouble if I did. So yeah, that was like all these points really made a valid point, and the asking questions really felt was I think I took it personally. So finally, to conclude with Derek, what is your pro tip or tips?
Yes, before I try to put out some tips, I just want to quickly, respond to the thing about asking questions. When I was Secretary General, I had a phrase that I always told my team. It's a very, very famous quote, though a very embarrassing one. I said, there are no stupid questions, but only stupid answers. So that's how I told them to ask more questions during our team building sessions and when we were working, because I think that's very important, also part of effective communication and team building. I just want to, for a tip, I just want to talk about empowerment. I also talked about it in Pikmin, the closing ceremony, when Lorraine was there, I believe. I think she remembered at least a bit. I think the most important thing in modern nations is that it empowers us, and it's not just you are being empowered by an institution or by something. Is that everyone can go on the process of empowering others, and I think that is key, and there's something that everyone can do, and that is something that would bring some good to yourself and to anyone around you. And to do this concretely, there's an easy way to do is to chair more. I forgot someone who said it earlier that MUNers create MUNers, and it's true. Because, for example, I've retired, and I probably won't get into MUN, anymore in my life. I hope not, but I think that's the case. Everyone eventually retires when they have something, serious work to be done in the future. Oh, sorry to say that to Secretary Generals here, but then it's true that everyone would retire at a point, and we have to keep this going, and it's because it's very good. And apparently, you cannot only have the good things for yourself. You must be able to, share things with other people, especially if the things are really so good. So to share more, and you will be able to learn more about how the things really go. I think being a chair and being delegate is quite different. If you have gone through the process that you try to view things differently, and it helps not just in MUN but also in life as well. And also another concrete suggestion for how to empower people is that I've actually tried to put forward the recommendation, though it was blocked by COVID, that universities should sign bilateral cooperation with each other to give scholarships to delegates, and like, for example, waiver of a conference fee or even sponsoring flights, because sometimes for some people financial issues are really a problem. Especially if they want to go to international MUN, so MUN is not within their country of residence. So being able to have some waiver in the conference fee, some of them might be quite expensive, and even ticket further sponsors in plane tickets would be very, very helpful. The exchange of delegates, like for example, if one school and another they engage in a bilateral exchange, so just two and two exchange, and then you get to waive two quotas, and they will be very helpful already. The second point I want to talk about, also mentioned before, is that the art of negotiation is one of the most important skills in life, I believe, and I think that's what Joseph said as well. Negotiation, not only in diplomacy but also like business and whatever other occasion that you would come into. So yeah, I think it will be difficult to find anyone who regrets to have joined MUN, and I hope this would sustain as it is how it will go down in history.
Indeed, like I wish for MUN and MUNers everywhere like more development and prosperity, because like it really does but define someone's, quoting Derek, define someone's path in a magnificent and irreplaceable way. So that was the beautiful conclusion to our panel today. And I'd really like to thank each one of you again for joining us and sharing your words and thoughts. Thank you. And everyone watching us, I really hope you found this talk really beneficial and rewarding, and see you next time. Bye.